I just wanted to do a quick follow-up to my two most recent videos. The first one I think was called Carpentry by Joe, and then I did one more recently called More Connections, I think, with connections in quotes. And there's just, one more point that's very important that's related to all that I want to make. One of the things that's been suggested to me repeatedly in the ways that I've described that are akin to that King of Queens episode where the television answered Spence's question, and how that happens to me through the television in my building. It happens to me in public. When I'm walking through the building and people have their doors open, which they do commonly. It happens through there. San Francisco's set up for it with all the crazy people walking around that talk out loud to themselves to no one. You don't see that in other cities as much as here, so it facilitates. This is my whole point. And there's one more thing that goes along with that. But first I want to mention that one of the things that they've mentioned to me through those methods is a number of times that I signed something that committed me to something like this, and that it has something to do with choices that I've made. A big part of what's being done to me is to make me feel guilty. Well, the first thing I'll say is that I didn't choose Lonesome the Dog. I think I was 5 or 6 years old when I got Lonesome the Dog, and that certainly was not my choice. Secondly, I don't have any clear memory of ever signing anything that would commit me to anything like this. I do have some vague memories of a number of different occasions where I was either brought to a point of intoxication intentionally and or drugged. I have one memory of one of those instances when the person said, "You won't remember this conversation." Several different things. There was one where my ex-girlfriend's CIA buddies baited me into saying bad things about her. There was another one, vague memory, with 3 women that I think was in Columbus who drugged me and abducted me and were saying things like, "Do you hate the country? Don't you want things to change?" And they have a plan to bring the whole country down systematically to cause a violent uprising, etc. And I'll say that maybe a month and a half ago I had some VDK of a female voice saying, "Start it." It was about a month ago maybe. But anyway, I've never willingly and knowingly agreed to anything like this. The effect of Lonesome the Dog is that you're easily baited and provoked, easily conned and scammed. And, they weren't able to succeed nearly to the point that they wanted. So they had to create these encounters with me and drug me and get me drunk, and apparently it got me to sign things that I don't even remember signing. I don't know what they are, but I'm not a willing participant in anything that you tricked me into signing, and I don't honor that contract since I never chose Lonesome the Dog or signed anything to agree to Lonesome the Dog. Now, I talked about all those weird ways that they're communicating to me to torment me through the television downstairs, through people that I overhear in public, etc., etc. And I've come to suspect that the experiment that is my life, I've been told twice in my whole life, experiment, is connected to dimensional travel studies, which is related to time travel. They communicate through these kind of crazy people, and there's a guy living in my building, his name is Frank, and he's really just not all, he's just really not all there. And one day I just asked him out of the blue, we were watching television, I think an orange juice commercial came on. I said, "Frank, do you like pulp in your orange juice?" And he kind of started saying something about iodine or something, and then less than a minute later he was talking about dimensional travel. Now, later, and he's said other things to torment me that no one else gets to hear. Now, later, there was a time when we were in the elevator, and he said the following words to me. "I could just snap my fingers and it will all stop." Okay. And, of course, he was referring to everything that I talked about in the last 2 videos. Now, Frank was in the military. I forget which branch. I didn't get a recording of him saying that in the elevator, but I did catch him later and got him to confirm that he said it. Here's that clip.
It's about me making a good general?
Yeah.
What does that have to do with anything?
Standing behind you and at your side, as opposed to forward of you and in your way. It's like
it just, you know, in general, it's like you have the ones out in front of you and in your way.
Frank, remember when you told me you could snap your fingers and have it all turned off? What were you talking about? You said you could snap your fingers and it would all stop. What were you talking about?
Like a pressure residual device. You know, like somebody is confident with all their weather meters. You know, like say weather machines are good. The only things that have a status check or a flow check device. All right, cool. On the, you know, across the nation, it came 11 of them from a similar company or one company.
You know, the last time I asked you about that, you said something about dimensional travel.
In making the switch, you know, that on and off switch, it would allow for dimensional travel as opposed to like time travel on. Damn, you got to beat your head out the door.
I don't know. I don't really.
Somebody's golf ball out of the
I try to think about it as little as possible.
Yeah.
But it was just strange the first time you said that to me. You said something like, you know, we weren't talking about anything, and you just out of the blue you said I could just snap my fingers and it all stopped. Remember?
Yes.
In the beginning of that clip, he was talking about how he'd said right before I started recording, he said something like, make a good general, and I asked about him. He said, well, yeah, you know, you weren't comfortable when I was standing behind you and at your side. And I think that's kind of interesting considering the last video I showed a clip of people who do that to me in church regularly. It's usually women who don't participate in Mass. But that's where they always stand, behind me and to my side. Maybe it's just a coincidence.